Alrighty, so you caught a fish that definitely won't fit in the pan. I'm going to teach you guys today how to fillet it. So make your initial cut down at the vent here. Again, make sure everything's out of the way. Down at the vent here. And go all the way up and just push that along. You don't want to really saw. If you're having to saw too much, stop and resharpen your knife. It's a nice female with eggs here. You guys keep these eggs and you can cure them and use them for steelhead or salmon bait, or honestly, pretty much anything will eat these. Really good. There's always 2 sets in here. There you go. All right, so now I'm going to get behind the fish. I always want to have the fish as close to the edge of the table, as close to me as possible, and I always fillet with the backbone towards me. So you're going to make your initial cut right behind the fish's collarbone here, and you're going to want to start out pretty much at a 45-degree angle here, down, and cut right through, and stop definitely when you feel that backbone. And you want to cut all the way through your initial cut here. You can lift up if this helps, but definitely hold your hand firm against the fish so it doesn't slide. Really important to have a nice work surface. And put your knife back in your third, excuse me. And then you're going to want to push until you feel those ribs crack, but you don't want to go through the backbone. And so I go not necessarily straight against the fish, because then you can waste some meat here, but at a slight angle downwards. And I like it slight angle downwards and a slight angle back. And then you don't want to put a whole lot of pressure. If you're having to put a whole lot of pressure, your knife isn't sharp. So just push. And you really want to slide. You do not want to saw, because you don't really get good pretty fillets when you have that sawing motion. And you just push and push all the way down. And then what I do, I flip the fish over, because again, I want to start out with the backbone towards me and do that same initial cut again. Right behind that collarbone and right down to the middle of the fish and down towards till it hits the backbone. So the second side is always a little more difficult, so just take your time and be careful, because it's going to feel weird because you're going to be crossing, but you definitely don't want to cut towards yourself, but you're going to have the same idea. A slight downward when you start, and grab that head and just push your knife. And sometimes it'll get hung up on this bone. Just take your time and move anything out of the way that you need to. Push. Push. And avoid the hornets. Alrighty. So then you have 2 really pretty fillets and potentially some crab bait here. Don't throw this away, this is great. So you have your 2 fillets. How do you get rid of the ribs? This is the only part you don't really need to have the fish right up against you. Put it wherever it's comfortable, because what you're going to do is you're going to take your knife and you're just going to slide it underneath the ribs like this until you reach the very bottom of the belly here, and then you can either cut through and keep some of this inner skin here, or you can cut that off, whatever your preference is. Personally, I love belly meat and I would never cut this off, but that's up to y'all. So when you start, make sure that you have that first rib underneath your knife here, and you're just gonna push. I missed one. Slide, and you want to be able to see your knife underneath that really thin skin there. Pull up your ribs, you can do that. Go all the way down. All right. So keep going, and you guys can see where the ribs end, and that's when either you can cut through that belly meat here, like this, excuse me, the skin, which is what I always do. That's not the prettiest job I've ever did, but, or you can cut this off. I personally don't, because again, I really love this belly meat, but that's up to you. Another thing, last part, is cutting off this bottom fin here. There's that bone that runs a little bit before it. Just take your knife. There you go. This other side, just because it's easier for me. But what you're gonna do is the same. You want to see your knife through those ribs. Just cut all the way down. If you don't have a fillet glove, put your hand over here and just be very careful. There you go. Underneath that fin here. All right, and then cut it however you want your portion sizes. Depends on how hungry I am, but usually I'll cut them into 3s. And there you go.